Okay, well, good morning. We've got with us today Serge Solski with Watsec, Cyber Risk Management. And Serge is the VP of Business Development, and he's going to share with us some information about cyber liability. So, welcome, Serge. Good to have you on board here.
Thanks, Steve. Looking forward to our talk today.
So, why don't you start by talking about how cyber risk is different from other business risks that our clients face?
Absolutely. The key part about cyber risk is it's something that's evolving very quickly, and it changes, you know, month to month, day to day, sometimes even hour to hour, which is something that traditional business risks that clients face. That's not what they do. They usually are an established risk or a risk that is, whether it's a legislative risk, it comes in there, you know when it's coming, and once it's said, it's said. It doesn't change on a daily basis. The other thing is this is big business. The people who are behind cyber crime are highly organized and well funded. They make a lot of money doing this. This is not something that is a small cottage industry. This is a significant business segment in organized crime, again, at the nation state level. It also attacks technology, but it also attacks people, which is something that's a little bit different from other businesses. It's usually one or the other, but there is a multifaceted approach that whether going after exploits within technology or exploiting human nature makes this a very dangerous risk. And the key thing here is every business is a target. Sometimes some traditional business risks only affect certain segments of businesses, certain sizes of businesses. That's not the case with cyber. It attacks whether you're a big company, which is the ones we usually hear about, but it also goes after small businesses. In fact, half of the attacks that have been reported are on businesses of 100 employees or less.
That's crazy. So tell me. I mean, everybody knows about cyber risk. Is this who's the department that's responsible for containing this in our clients' businesses? Is it an IT department issue?
Well, actually, it's not. It's not, and I think that's at the heart of the problem. Cyber risk is an enterprise risk. It impacts the entire organization, not just the IT systems and technologies and networks that are traditionally looked at. And a lot of it is the fact that the risk is so great. There are so many exposures that companies have that they may not be fully aware of. And also the impact of a successful attack can be very significant, to the point that the future viability of your business could be at risk. Many businesses that are impacted by these, especially small businesses that are not ready, usually within about a 2-year span, they're out of business or they're in serious financial straits. So there is a lot at stake. And again, from an enterprise perspective, that really involves people and technology. There's a lot of moving parts that are exposed with cyber risk that IT really only looks at a subset of those.
Well, it seems like it's getting worse. Why is that? Why is cyber risk getting worse?
Well, I think we really believe it comes down to the wrong approach. Senior leadership also, they don't feel they understand the problem, and maybe it's something that is outside of their level of comfort because they look at this problem as being an IT problem. So they automatically assume, I can't understand it, I'm not an IT person. So they delegate that responsibility away, and therein lies a major problem, because the strategic decisions that need to be made at the senior leadership level, they're not happening. They're not understanding the impact to their business, and without strategic leadership from the top, that's really where you need to set prioritization and direction. Which risks you're going to accept, which ones you're going to address, which ones you're going to fund with budget and things like that. And with also not having any visibility and a true risk exposure, sometimes they sense that the feeling from senior leadership is, we're prepared, but without actually understanding it, they're not. And I think that's a really big risk. And if you don't understand your most critical risk exposures, what happens then is how you look to address them. It gets stretched really thin. So now, instead of trying to cover off your most valuable assets and your greatest exposures, you try to do everything at once, and really that's an impossible task. Or sometimes it can be aimed at the wrong places. If you're not actually looking at the entire picture from a risk management perspective, you might be putting out one fire while another one's completely raging. So what happens typically with this is as they look to address it with security, which is in essence you're looking at IT security technology solutions, and those really just focus on technology. And again, because it's coming from an IT perspective, only the IT angle is being looked at. And this is something that we know is happening because there's billions of dollars being spent on technology solutions. Technology is also very costly, and it doesn't scale very well to small companies. So small companies think, I can never afford this solution, so therefore I'm just going to accept the risk and hope everything works out all right, which is a very, very big risk to take. Technology is also vulnerable to being exploited. That's just the nature of technology. People on the other side of the fence are looking at ways to find weaknesses to get in the front door. And the other thing is technology has a tendency to be very reactive. It will let you, if you spend the money, it'll let you know the exact moment when the horse has left the barn. But the problem is the horse has already left the barn. And that's a big, big problem. The other thing about it is employees are your largest exposure, quite frankly. Technology can't really be applied to people and human nature. And a technology approach to this, an IT approach to this, will, for the most part, neglect that risk exposure. And if you're not addressing your people, you're dealing with some serious, serious problems. Now, the other part of this is sometimes they look at technology, other times they just look at cyber insurance. But the risk there is while the coverage will cover most of your financial needs that are a result of an incident happening, whether it's you need to have investigations, lawsuits, things like that, you need to have coverage for that. But the brand damage has already happened, and you've lost the trust of your customers and your partners, and there's no coverage that's going to get that back.
Well, you're kind of reading my mind. I was thinking that a lot of agencies, they put cyber risk liability coverage on the other coverages to consider, at renewal, and that's kind of their talking point, and they check the box that they offered it, and most of our clients think, oh, it's not going to happen to me. So, the question I had was, how do you elevate this? How do you kind of get it in front of the customer and prove that this really is their number one risk?
Well, I think at the heart of cyber risk, the reason why we say it's your client's number one risk is because it's the one they understand the least, and it also has the impact to cause the most damage. So how are you managing a risk that you don't understand? And a lot of organizations will look at themselves and say, I'm too small. Like I said, even though half of the reported breaches were for businesses of 100 employees or less. Or they think they don't have anything of value. Again, that's the media getting involved, because what do we hear about? We hear about great big exploits of whether it's Target or Home Depot. We hear the Chinese are involved with stealing, plans for fighter jets. We hear Russians stealing credit card numbers, payment card numbers. But the bottom line is every business has something of value. And sometimes they even think they have everything under control, but they don't really know for sure. There's no independent oversight or assurance to tell them, hey, you know what, you are managing this correctly, which leaves you extremely vulnerable. Now, where clients need to understand this, and really, again, the message is you really have to talk to those owners and those presidents and those CEOs, because cyber risk, unlike most business risk, has the ability to wipe their business right off the map if they're not ready for it. They also need to understand that there's more than one exposure. That if this isn't just about payment card information or personally identifiable information, this is about all sorts of things. And quite frankly, extortion, which some of you probably have heard of ransomware, where it locks you out of your system and then you get a phone call asking you for money. This impacts every single business. It doesn't matter what size they are. You could be asked for $500. You could be asked for $25,000, and sometimes, in some instances, it's $1 million. So these are really key exposures that they need to be aware of, that they need to know it's not just a single exposure. The other thing is smaller businesses are easier targets because they are less prepared. They don't have the resources, they don't have the people on board, they don't have the budgets on board, and again, they don't think they're a target, so they're highly unprepared. As I mentioned, within about 2 years, most of them are out of business or in deep financial trouble.
Okay, so other than just buying insurance and thinking you're protected, why don't you cover at a high level what some of the keys are for an effective cyber risk management program?
Sure. Uh, and that's really it. You need to look at this problem with a full view, and risk management is really the approach that we strongly believe is the way to handle this. You really need to understand what are your most critical exposures, which means you need to reduce not only your technology risk but your people risk as well. And just look at it this way, you need to have risk managed from both the pre-incident, so before it happens, and then the post-incident, which is really where cyber insurance comes out very nicely, and that's really where you address that problem. So you need to prevent, and in the event of something happening, because you're never going to reduce your risk to zero, you need to have something to protect you on the back end to cover any of the costs that you're going to be looking at. The other thing is, from a risk management approach, this needs to be an ongoing exercise. It can't be one and done or done every year. As I said, this is a problem that changes daily, even hourly. So looking at it, taking your temperature once a year and say, how am I doing? Okay, we're great today. That doesn't mean you're going to be great tomorrow.
As one of the Insight Performance Group strategic partners, you guys are kind of well known for a program you have called Tough. Why don't you talk about that?
Sure. Tough is really it's our program. It's delivered by Watsec, and it really is a cyber risk reduction program that is exclusive to Insight Performance Group members and their clients. This is a pre-incident cyber risk reduction program. So we look at it before it happens, and the focus of Tough is to reduce the likelihood of a successful attack. We give equal weighting to both people and technology in our approach. As I mentioned, those are two key components that have to be part of any cyber risk reduction program. It's ongoing and it scales to any size of business. This is something that can be applied to the smallest businesses and also the largest businesses. We have a very flexible program, and we look at things that are not unique to specific businesses and to specific verticals and things like that. We have a program that looks at your common vulnerabilities, your common area risk exposures that are really, quite frankly, appear in any business of any size. Now, if you couple Tough with a comprehensive cyber risk insurance policy, such as the Beasley BBR policy, your clients will greatly reduce their cyber exposure from both pre and post-breach scenario.
That's great. It sounds like it's pretty robust. This isn't just an IT solution, is it?
No, absolutely not. You're right. Tough is a senior leadership solution. What the purpose of our program is to give senior leaders clear insight into their business's cyber risk exposure. It also gives them the assurance that their IT team is effectively managing this risk. That's a component that is seriously lacking in what we're seeing out there. Without this critical insight, I mean, it would be almost impossible for them to make decisions on budget, the type of direction they are going to be looking at when it comes to risk assumption or risk mitigation. Again, how do you prioritize what you don't know, and what you don't know the big problem is? The bottom line is you could have a serious vulnerability and you address that vulnerability and you take it off the front burner, move it to the back burner, but that means all of a sudden another one's on the front burner. So you need to sort of deal with those in that order, as opposed to just thinking it's this problem but actually ignoring another one. And we also provide an audit trail which monitors improvement or highlights any ongoing gaps. Ultimately, what we want to do is we want to help senior leaders understand, are we managing this effectively? And if we're not, what is the cause of this? Is it because I need to get more people involved? Does it mean I need to get more budget? to solve this problem, or does it mean I need to look at another way to solve this problem? And maybe that means looking at another team. And really, that's a serious gap that we're seeing right now in how this problem is being managed, which really stems back to why the problem is getting worse.
Well, there's other consulting services out there that does cyber risk management. How is this one different than what else is on the market?
Well, you're absolutely right. There is, as I mentioned, this is a billion-dollar industry. There's a lot of businesses that say they help manage cyber. They help. They say, well, we reduce your exposure, and sometimes they make claims that we'll reduce your exposure to zero, and that's something that is really not accurate. What makes it a little different than what we do is, again, they focus heavily on technological solutions. People solutions are rarely a consideration or even available from some of the vendors out there. They're focusing on firewalls and things like that. We provide a program view. Tough provides a program view of ongoing cyber risk exposure reduction. Again, that gives equal weighting to people and technology, which is significantly different. The frequency of our vulnerability assessments that we provide are different than the ones provided by vendors. Typical vendors will just do one-offs or just do it in whatever order. Okay, we'll do it monthly, we'll do it quarterly, we do it semi-annually. Ours is based on the vulnerabilities are tied to your client's risk profile, which is something that we discern from an application. We understand their risk exposure, we understand their risk profile, and then we make solutions based on that. So there is some process involved to understand. Like if your client is a low risk client, we're not going to check their pulse every single month. Maybe we'll go quarterly, and that's a little bit more of a methodology approach to it. The other critical part of what we do that's different is the visibility and reporting provided by vendors typically ends with IT, as they're the ones that engage the vendors. Because this is looked at as an IT risk, the IT department hires people, external parties, to assess their vulnerabilities. Well, can you imagine if that vulnerability report comes back as being critical or highlighting gaps, how far do you think that report makes it up to senior leadership? It will typically end with the IT department, or sometimes they will fix the problem and get the report done again. And the problem with that is cyber criminals don't give companies a mulligan to try again. They will exploit at the weakest moment, which is quite frankly something senior leaders need to be well aware of that. What we do is we provide executive level reporting, which is delivered directly to senior leadership, to provide them with clear visibility on how effectively their cyber risk exposure is being managed. Our reporting also provides quarterly graded reporting on our cyber risk reduction services, and it's also consolidated into one executive level report. If your client is going with multiple vendors and it's spread out over multiple, again, this type of consolidated reporting, and the consolidated reporting that is completely unedited because it's provided by the third party, is not going to be available to them. So without having that independent, that arm's length from the reports, they may not be getting the clearest picture. Our plans are also very competitively priced because our services are bundled. And the other thing that I think is really important for clients and members to understand is Tough is the only cyber risk reduction program that is recognized by Beazley, which is a major cyber insurance carrier, as many of you probably know. And they do so, they recognize that our program, that Tough, reduces cyber risk exposure. And what they do as a result is they give clients with Tough in place access to competitively priced premiums to reflect this. The other thing is worth keeping in mind is we talk about cyber being your client's top business risk, but we also look at it, and I know Insight feels the exact same way, is that this is your agency's top business risk as well, for a couple of reasons. And the Tough program can actually help you guys out in this way. You talked about earlier, Steve. You talked about offering cyber insurance and checking the box that we've done that. But unless you're offering the client's level of cyber risk management offered by Tough, That could result in an incident happening or a successful cyber attack, which could bring your agency an E&O claim because the client more than likely didn't feel like they had the best advice, the best solution provided to them. And since our goal is to reduce the likelihood of a cyber insurance claim being made, there's no claim, there's no E&O risk. The other thing worth considering too is without offering these types of solutions to your clients, if they are the result, if they become a victim of a cyber attack, there is a chance that they may no longer be in business. Well, if you're the agent of record of a business that was taken off the map by a cyber attack or seriously damaged, and your positioning is as to be a risk manager, that's not going to reflect very well on the agency. That knowing you might be known as the agent of record of severely damaged or failed business. What Tough does is it prepares your client and it lowers their risk exposure, which is ultimately lines up perfectly with the Insight Performance Group philosophy on how to help clients be aware of the cost of risk. The other thing that Tough does is it offers you a competitive edge. This could allow you to, when you're going to existing clients, to retain their business by offering them a cyber solution that is more than just insurance. Now, not every client's going to understand this, but I can assure you that at some point of the day, the light bulb's going to come on, whether it's going to be something they see in the news, or possibly a partner or a peer is going to be affected by this, and hopefully this is not the case, that they actually suffer, are they on the receiving end of a successful cyber attack. That will you really want to be there when that light bulb comes on, and you want to offer them more than just cyber insurance, because anybody can do that. Tough provides them with that program view of pre-incident and post-incident, which is what your clients really need. The other thing is you can use this competitive edge to get into potential clients that maybe you didn't have access to, because you're offering a solution to their cyber risk problem that no one else is offering, or can offer for that matter. But keep in mind that your competitors out there are doing the exact same thing, and they might come to your clients with some kind of ad hoc solution, whether it's a one-off penetration test, or they have an IT vendor provide an annual vulnerability assessment. That's more than insurance. That might get them into the door with your clients, which then exposes your book of business to competition that probably didn't exist before. So we really want to make sure that Insight Performance Group members understand that Tough is really there as a big way to put you guys out there in front of your clients and say, we've got the solution to this emerging threat, and we're here. You're going to be leaders in this space ultimately.
Well, Serge, that's great. You've done a great job today of elevating this and shedding some light on it. I'm sure that the people who are watching this, just because you're one of the top strategic partners in Insight Performance Group, will want to get more information. How do we contact you?